Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Districting Commission. It looks like we have a quorum. Commissioner Herbert isn't here yet, but I'm sure he'll be here shortly. First item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting on September 22nd. Unless there are any changes, corrections, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Do we need to call the roll on that, or just to do a voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Passes unanimously. New business, Jeff Schmidt's going to review the options. We've had 11 different maps that we've considered up till this point, and Jeff will walk us back through the process and bring the public up to speed on where we're at as well.
Thank you. Jeff Schmidt, representing Planning and Development Services on this commission. The districting criteria is before you. If you have any questions on that, please ask. Like the chair just mentioned, we had 11 different options this time, and I'll go through the first 9. This is option C7. Any of these that were C labeled, we really concentrated and tried to formulate some good options for the central district. This one was too high. Actually, the information here is a little misnomer. It's too low. It's over the 5%. So the concern here was when we moved in the northwest, when we moved 3/6 from the northwest into the central, then northwest was too small. With C8, this one worked numerically. However, with this one, we lost our criteria for contiguous. It was working fine, but then what happened was upon 1-3, down in the southwest district, when 1-3 got moved into the northwest with the green area, then 5-12 and 5-13 were no longer contiguous to the southwest. So that did not meet the criteria, so C8 was no longer eligible. C9 is eligible, it meets the criteria. And with this one, what we did was we added and subtracted, I'm just kind of highlighting some general standards here. A lot of issues in the southwest. We did some things down along Minnesota Avenue and along the Big Sioux River. The next option is option G. And with option G, we moved 6 different precincts around here. The numerical numbers worked with option G, and the big change here was in the northwest. When we added up in the northwest, we added 4 or 5 along the airport. So the geographics changed a little bit on this one, which was one of the things that the commission reviewed and why it wasn't highlighted, but the numerics worked. And then also with this one in the southeast going to the northeast, right along 41st Street to 57th Street. You go 2-3, 2-6, and 2-7. So I'll highlight this quite a bit on some of these options. But with this one, I ended up moving 2-3 and 2-6 from the southeast to the northwest to make the numbers, or northeast, excuse me, to make the numbers work. On option C11, we ended up moving 5 precincts, so not too bad. We moved 5 precincts, and the main issue here was the numbers worked, and we were able to move, C11, excuse me, was not, because again, this was very similar to C7, because this is when we moved 3/6 out of the northwest into the central. Therefore, like C7, the northwest was no longer eligible. C12, this one we ended up moving 11 different precincts, which was one of the things I think the commission, why it wasn't a real favor, moving 11 different precincts. But on this one, central to the southeast, We really tried to look at if this was favorable, and we moved a lot of things along the Big Sioux River and the interstate from the central district to the southeast to form up and make the central district a little bit more static with the east, the west, and the north area. Option H. Option H, we moved 5 precincts. Numerically it worked. On here, some of the big highlights are again kind of staying to that south central area. Like the one I just pointed out to you. Here we moved along the interstate in the Big Sioux River. We moved 2-1 and 2-2 from the southeast into the central. So just the flip-flop of what we did with option G. Then option I, we end up moving 14 different precincts. So especially when you start looking in the south, southeast, we end up moving a lot of the different areas. And all in all, a lot of issues took place on the east side trying to form up the central and make all 5 precincts work. So we shifted a lot of things on the east side with this option I. And then the last of the 9 options, this is option J. Clean and simple, we moved 3 districts. And as I kind of highlighted earlier, along that east side with 41st Street and 57th Street, instead of moving 2-3 and 2-4, here I moved 2-7, and that took 5,000 people out of the southeast to the northeast. This is something we'll reconsider probably every time we bring this up, because that 2-7 is such a large precinct. At some time it's going to be split. So it's a good thing to kind of talk about and look at, that at some point it's either going to be split and some's going to go to the northeast and stay in the southeast, but it was a good option to look at it with J. So those were the 9 that we kind of started to highlight along with a couple of the other options. Any questions or comments on these ones?
Don't hear any.
Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the other plan, 11A?
Sure. Then the 10th one that we recommended and we brought forward, or we had an option for we brought forward after our September 22nd, during our September 22nd meeting, this was the option that got recommended by the commission. C11 wasn't really working very well, but because that was District 3 again, with the Northwest was too low. So we tried something similar to C11, a little bit of an amendment to C11, became C11A, and this one worked well. We had to only move 7 different districts with this one, excuse me, and the numericals worked. Again, just as I just talked about with option J, here's where we moved 2-7 out of the south to the northeast. It's such a large district. It's a new district, so you're impacting a lot of people, but they're new people versus maybe 2-3 and 2-4, upsetting some of those voters. And then along the Big Sioux River and the interstate, we moved one of the precincts to the southwest to make it numerically work, and then we moved a central district to the southeast to make it numerically work. And then in all honesty, the numbers were just, they worked so well. 1.76, 1.31 for the highs and the lows. This became something that everybody could get a consensus on, and this was the recommended option that was voted on by the commission. So if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you, Jeff. One of the things that, for those that haven't followed this process closely, one of the opportunities we saw once the census data came back in August, when we examined how everything laid out and the large disparity, if you will, in terms of population from, I think, 32,000 something in the central district to 42,000, maybe 10,000 more in the southeast district, and the northeast was right there as well. We saw an opportunity, and you can see it in this map, some of the districts or precincts that we moved, 4-1, 4-14, 3-6, that opportunity, or 556, I guess it is, that opportunity to enlarge the central district into what some would consider to be the core neighborhoods of central Sioux Falls. We were able to complete downtown, which surprisingly, 4-1 was not a part of the central district. It was part of the northeast, or it still is. The Whittier neighborhood, 414, the Cathedral neighborhood as well. But as Jeff has talked about, there's a domino effect in terms of what you do. And consequently, to get those numbers to work in areas that make the most sense, we're seeing a population shift to the southeast part of the city. That's why you take a look at precincts like 2-7 in that area, maybe north of 41st Street, will gradually move to the northeast, just like on the west side of town, that area north of 41st Street has, over the last few years, gradually moved from southwest to northwest. I will, later in the process, at the appropriate time, offer an amendment to this plan, and that concerns that little precinct right there where the hand is. After the last meeting, I sat down, took a look at the numbers, and it's unnecessary to move that precinct. That precinct is in the central district currently. I'm going to recommend that it stay in the central district. The numbers will still work. I believe we have a map that's made up 11AA or 11A1 or something like that. And all that does is simply keep that precinct in the central district. The other 6 would still move. So I just want to put that out there now. I guess at this point we open it up to public input. If there are anybody in the public that's here today, if they want to come up, state their name and talk about the plan as being presented. Well, hearing none, we can move on to the next item, which would be item 4 on the agenda. The original question is on the adoption of this map, C11A, as presented. So at this point, I would ask for a motion to approve this map before I offer my amendment.
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll move into the amendment. In the packet is an amendment, and what I would offer is a motion to amend map option C11A, creating map C11A1, which essentially will keep precinct number 513 in the central district. As I said earlier, the movement of that precinct was unnecessary to make these numbers work. Frankly, moving it now, it'll just be moved again later. And I think from a voter's perspective, citizen's perspective, the less disruption we can create in this process, the better. I also think what we're really trying to aim here for is a long-term vision for where things will continue to evolve. You're seeing that here with 2-7, you're seeing that with 4-1, 4-14 in particular, as the city starts to expand. So I would offer that motion and entertain a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think your rationale that to move it now, but then to move it back again on the next one, makes perfect sense to leave it where it is. The numbers still work, and I guess we could have uncovered that last time. We didn't get that done, but thank you for taking the time to do it, and I think it makes a lot of sense to keep that district where it is long term.
Anyone else? Thanks for coming. Yeah, well, thank you. When you look at the variance too, I mean, we have to work within plus or minus 5% in these districts. And honestly, we talked about this last time, but some of these maps, you know, we looked at 11 different maps, and there were some proposals that we had drawn up individually that never were submitted. I remember I did one that was 4 people over, you know, it was 5.00001%. That won't cut it. So it does, again, goes to emphasize the importance of filling out your census when you have that chance. But I don't know, any further discussion? Do we take a vote on this as amended? Okay, vote on the amendment first, okay. Take a roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioners Herbert, not here. Johnson?
Yes.
Kipley?
Aye.
Millage?
Aye.
Timian?
Yes.
So that's passed 4-0. That's the amendment. Now the main motion. So the main motion would be to accept map C11A1 and present to the city council.
Commissioners Johnson?
Aye.
Kipley?
Aye.
Millage?
Aye.
Timian?
Aye.
That passed 4-0. So, Tom, the next step in this process will be presenting this to the city council on November 9th, correct?
Yes, Commission Chair, that would be my recommendation. So what I put before you, and I'll briefly go through this, your requirement as a commission per charter is to provide a plan which consists of a map and a description of the district. So this is a small report that mostly memorializes what you all did over these past several months, remembering that you were all appointed last December, and here we are close to November. So it's been a long haul. Mostly waiting on census figures, but this basically captures the essence of what you've done over the past nearly year. So I'll run through it very briefly, and what I would ask afterwards is just a formal motion to submit this to the City Council on November 9th, where, if possible, Commission Chair Millage could present it to the council. So really, table of contents, but we move right into a quick summary, which this meets the criteria in the charter for submission. So up here we have the map. It's preceded by a summary of what was done, and then down here a description of the district. So really all I did was take, or what you did, the description now includes moving the precincts to where they are on the map. And of course, a subsequent step by the council will be to rename these highlighted, these bolded districts so that their prefixes correspond with the actual district. Just one important point to make up front is that the plan is deemed adopted, so the council doesn't take a formal action to accept this plan or adopt it, but they do have the ability within 21 days to basically disapprove it, in which case it would come back to the commission. You can reevaluate it and submit another plan. The remainder of the report just provides some background, talk about why you're here, the reasons why we do districting, talk about the appointment process, but also kind of wanted to capture some of the key things in there about census results and the challenges that the commission faced over the past year in terms of receiving those. You can see here in this third paragraph, we had a lot of playing around with meetings in terms of when we thought we'd meet based on when those numbers came out. Luckily, they did come out in August, which gave us a pretty good, gave you all a pretty good jump on getting this done in a timely fashion. And then again, just finishing up here with that key piece about it being submitted and essentially adopted unless disapproved. And then I just ran through each one of the alternatives considered. At the back of this entire report are maps for each one. I did start with the existing boundaries, which I just want to remind folks did not meet the criteria in the charter, so you all had to change the map. So we run through each one of these. Finally, the evaluation of alternatives, just to review the criteria. Also mentioned some of the other things that the commission looked at. You know, in addition to that equitable adjustment of the districts, there was also, you were informed by other considerations that I included here, future growth, characteristics of the voting population and natural boundaries. And by natural, talking about that idea about the central district in particular. Yesterday on a webinar some of us sat through, they referred to that as communities of interest, just trying to keep similar populations together in terms of the map. And so these are all of the options that were considered at one point or another. It's just a summation of all the deviations and the populations for each one, knowing that the ideal population that you've been shooting for is 38,596. Did explain there were some options that were screened out. Obviously, the existing C7 and C11 all exceeded the deviation, and C8 was that one option that had non-contiguous territory. One of the precincts was off by itself. And then the submitted plan, just a quick synopsis of that. And I, just so you know, I wrote two versions of this report, one for C11A and one for C11A1 in the event that A1 was not adopted. So I did make note that it was noted early in the process that there would possibly be an amendment that was posted online and given to the public. And this is basically what you ended up with. And then adoption of the plan, just again, some key excerpts from the charter, and then respectfully submitted by the commission with all of your names down there. And then the remainder is just reference the actual section 6.02 from the charter, your appointment resolution, and then the ordinance that adjusted the timeline, which I think is important to have in here for posterity's sake. The remaining pages are the maps themselves. So I'll take any questions if you have any.
Excellent report. I could have used you in college. Thank you. Are there any questions? If none, I'll take a motion to submit this report to the council on November 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. At this point, we're open for any further public comment, if anyone has anything they wish to bring before the commission. Thank you. Final thoughts. I want to thank Jeff and Tom for all their work. I didn't realize until you were going through that report, this was our 6th meeting over an 8-month period. And frankly, I think it speaks to how well this process works. I know there's a lot of talk, without getting political, a lot of talk on, who should be handling districting. And, there wasn't any controversy here. We didn't draw a lot of attention. But to bring essentially 5 strangers together for a process that we all obviously feel was important. Everybody worked hard, took it seriously, and hopefully, what we return to the council meets with their approval. I thank you for the honor of serving as your chair. It's been fun. It really has. Mr. Timian.
I would want to say thank you, Mark. You've been an excellent job in your leadership, the work that you've put in, coming up with the amendment after the meeting, and everything else, but all the thoughts you put in to this, your experience, and everything else has just been greatly appreciated. And Tom and Jeff, you and your staffs have done an amazing job on getting this information on a timely basis in an understandable format, and it's worked out really well. And I want to say thank you to my other commissioners. It's been a pleasure working with you on this, and but I think this should be our last meeting.
I think it is, unless, you're welcome to join me at the council meeting on November 9th, or you could stay home and watch on TV. It's your choice. Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.